Darren, you grew up in Brooklyn, and right up the street and around the corner is Broadway. And you credit your parents and Broadway for sparking that creativity in you.
Yeah, that's true. My parents, they were just public school teachers in South Brooklyn out by Coney Island, and there was nothing better than driving in, getting the cheap seats at a Broadway theater, sitting all the way in the nosebleeds. But I grew up with a big stack of playbills, and my love for theater definitely started there, and probably the beginning of the storytelling started there.
You have a love for everything. You trained as a field biologist with the School for Field Studies in Kenya and Alaska, majored in social anthropology at Harvard. I would imagine majoring in something like anthropology helps you as a director to capture those nuances, those things that can make a character come to life.
I think it was more because I was never that popular of a kid, and I would always sort of stand on the sidelines and kind of watch people. I was one of those wallflowers, as they say.
The cool thing about that, though, is that you do step back and observe, and that's got to creep into some of the things that you do creatively. But where did the interest to actually do film come from?
I had no idea what I wanted to do when I got to college. I'm always telling young people when they get to college, don't be pressured. Take your time to figure out what you want to do. Like, let the world come to you. And I had a roommate in college who just was an animator. He would draw and he would get solid A's, and I was trying to write papers and I just couldn't really do that well at it. And eventually I started taking some art classes, and that's when it clicked for me.
Yeah, and when it came to one of your first films, you always hear directors talk about, I have this thing in my head, but I've got to get it out and I've got to get it shot. That takes a lot of money. You got creative with how you came up with that money.
Before Kickstarter, I went around, I wrote letters, actual letters with postage stamps on them to every single person I knew, asking for $100 each. And together we put the money together, and that's how I made my first film, Pi.
Everything around us can be represented and understood through numbers.
I should have actually started Kickstarter because I would have made more money.
Right.
Yeah.
We oftentimes just need that kind of like God wink, as we call it, to tell us that we're doing the right thing. You got a big God wink. You won Best Director Award at Sundance Film Festival.
Very unexpected. It was a little tiny film, black and white, but my heart was in it, and I just worked super hard on it. And then the people came, they responded to the film, and it's been 25 years actually since I made that film, and the rights are coming back to me and the filmmakers, and we're actually going to re-release it on Pi Day next year.
I first became familiar with you with Requiem for a Dream.
I'm somebody now, Harry. Everybody likes me. It's a reason to smile.
And I gotta tell you, that movie bothered me. And I thought about it long after I watched it, which is kind of what you want some movies to do.
Look, I've always been the type of person that I don't like movies. I mean, I do like, sometimes I like a movie I go see and then I forget about it 5 minutes later and someone's like, what did you see last night? And I'm like, but I really always looked up to movies that stayed with you, and you talked about it all night and you continue to work with it for a very long time. And I feel like that's always been my goal, is to make films that mean a bit.
Yeah, The Whale just premiered at Venice Film Festival, and Brendan Fraser's already getting Oscar buzz for that. Can you tell us a little bit about what we can look forward to with that one?
It's a very, very small film with a very big heart. Brendan Fraser is back, and he just does an awesome job. Also in it is Sadie Sink, who we all know from Stranger Things, and this is her first kind of big film role. It's just a really, hopefully, moving story.
Writing is obviously in your wheelhouse already. So now writing this children's book, Monster Club. I love the play on words, because with monster, we can think of monsters as being kind of cute little fuzzy things or scary things.
Well, this one is the more on the fuzzy thing. They get a little scary and out of control. It's set in Coney Island, Brooklyn, where I grew up, which is the first amusement park in the New World. And there's a lot of magic there already. But what happens when some kids get a bit of magic ink and suddenly the monsters that they draw for fun come alive into the real world? Gremlins and Goonies and Stranger Things. That's what Monster Club is.
What are some of the themes and the meanings that you hope that kids and their parents, for that matter, can get out of the book?
It's that moment, if you remember, when you're leaving elementary school and you're starting middle school, and suddenly these 8th and 9th graders are huge. They're the real monsters. But also, for the first time in your life, you're suddenly not a kid anymore. And all of these pressures to be a little bit more adult start to come in, and how they play against you as a kid. That I was really interested in that moment in time. it's such an emotional moment when we're asked to suddenly grow up. It breaks my heart because I remember it very, very clearly. Do you remember it? Do you remember it?
I totally remember it. And then I remember going through it again with my son. And then one day he just said, you know what, Mom? I had an epiphany. I said, what's that? He goes, fears aren't real. Insecurities aren't real. They're just in your head. You're the only one who cares about them. I'm now ready to move on with my life.
Every single insecurity they all have one thing in common. They're not real. And you shouldn't care about them.
He just had this speech in the car one night. I was like, okay, well, you go. All right. We interview lots of authors, and oftentimes they say, fingers crossed, we hope it can become a movie. You kind of are the opposite way. It's like, you know you can do a movie. Do you think it'll be a movie someday?
I'm just glad the story's out in the world. I'm a storyteller, really. I do make films. I'm mostly known for making films because I went down that path. But really what's important to me is storytelling. It's just fun to get that story in the world and get these characters out there. It's out there to honor the guys I grew up with in South Brooklyn and also my teachers. I had some amazing teachers along the way, and they're all kind of represented in this book as well.
Darren, thank you for joining us, and thank you for more so than that. I can feel from you that you do things because you love it, and that passion spills over, and we'll love it, right? It's not for any other reason than to make a difference in some way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look, we're going to be at the Austin Film Festival, which is a little bit of a trip for you from Houston, but if you guys want to come end of October, we'll be in Austin. I hope to see you all there.
All right. It a little bit of a trip, but I went to school in Austin and worked in Austin, Hook 'em Horn. So not too much of a trip. So thank you very much.